Greetings, I'm Charles. I'm 55 years old. I'm 6'1" when I'm fully assembled. Weigh about 230 pounds. Today I'm going to talk about preventing swelling in a residual limb. Now in my situation I've got two residual limbs. I am a below the knee amputation on my right side, which is right here, and I'm wearing a prosthetic on this leg, and I'm an above the knee amputee on the left side, and I'm not wearing a prosthesis on this side. I do have the liner on just so that I don't have a bare leg right now. But what I'm going to talk about is swelling, preventing the swelling in my below the knee amputated leg, the residual limb. I personally don't have much issue with swelling on my above the knee amputation side, but I do on the right side. Now where I live in the United States, hot and humid is running about 77, 78 degrees, something of that nature, and depending on the time of year, that could be enough to make what's considered hot and humid. People are complaining about the hot, sweat, stickiness, etc. Now I have lived in other parts of the country where that's probably closer to 96, 97, 98 degrees, where the hot and humid is something that people just complain about. But in any case, here it's considerably lower. It doesn't make it any less miserable. But what I have found for myself is when we get to that part of the year, my residual limb, my below the knee amputation stump, tends to swell. And when I notice it's swollen, what it is after when I get up in the morning. Because I sleep overnight, I don't wear anything on it, don't wear any kind of shrinkers or covers or anything like that. It's just a bare stump, and then I'll get up and then I'll take a shower and brush my teeth and shave. That is, of course, if I'm shaving that day. But I will do that stuff, and then by the time I get done doing those things, my stump has swollen somewhat, or typically is swollen somewhat. So that's what I'm talking about, is how do I keep that swelling under control. I want to keep it under control for the short period of time, half hour, 45 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, from the point that I get up in the morning and it's no longer in a flat or elevated position to the point that I get my prosthetic leg on. Because once I get my prosthetic leg on, the swelling will be under control, and it won't. I will personally not have a problem with my leg swelling. I don't have issues with it swelling up here or anything like that. I just basically have issues with it swelling down at the floppy end of the residual limb. That would be below where it's cut. The bone has been cut off, and you've probably seen other videos where people have got that floppy part on the end, or seen some pictures, hand drawings of the kind of cone-shaped thing. Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's where I get the swelling. That's where I will personally have issues if it swells too much, getting it into the prosthesis. So the big trick that I found is there's some things I can do pretty much year-round that helps control that swelling. And one of the main things is using a series of shrinkers. Like I said, at night I do not wear anything on them, on my residual stump at all. I just let it go bare. But then once I get out of the shower and dry my leg off, I will put a couple of different shrinkers on. This is a combination that seems to work for me. I've got this reflective shrinker, and what this basically is an elasticized material, and I'll take one end of this and pull it onto my residual limb. Pull it all the way up until it's up over my knee, just like I was putting a sock on over my residual stump. There's this little plastic ring in the middle of this thing that will allow it to slide up and down, and once I get this in place, I will slide that ring up until it's snug against the bottom of my stump. And this is what's called a reflexive shrinker, and the reason is because it reflects on itself. So once this ring is up, this part will be hanging down below the residual limb or the stump. And I just take that, fold it over, and pull it back over my stump. Excuse me. So what I'll end up having after I've gotten out of the shower and dried my leg, I put this first shrinker on, is basically 2 layers. The first one I pulled over, the second that I doubled over, and that will be providing some compression on my leg and helping to reduce what swelling has occurred since the time I'd gotten out of bed, you know, when it's no longer in an elevated or even a flat position. That's when they typically start to swell more for me throughout the year. So I've got this doubled up, it's on the stump. Once I've done that, I have this other shrinker. It's a different kind of shrinker. It has like a collar area on top, and on the inside, you can't see it on the videos, but there's a bunch of like little rubberized type of dots on here. And I'll pull this over the stump, just like it was a sock again, and pull it up over top of this doubled up one. And with these little rubberized dots, I'll pull that up and it'll be on my skin and it'll hold this in place without it falling off. So by the time everything is said and done, I have 3 layers of this elasticized type of material over top my residual limb, helping to shape it up, squish some of the fluid out, which does happen relatively quickly. Even if it looks like it's swollen, in a matter of 15 or 20 minutes, all of that will be gone. And that's about what it usually takes me from the time I put one of these shrinkers on to finish getting ready and getting my clothes on together, and just getting ready to go out of the house. So given that amount of time, 15 or 20 minutes, it shrinks down. At that point, I can put my prosthetic leg on. Sometimes it's kind of tight, and sometimes it doesn't want to go down right away, but as I've discovered, at least with my prosthetic leg, it tends to swell below where the bone has cut off. It doesn't swell much above that. It just swells in the kind of the hangy part that if you haven't had an amputation or you're about to have an amputation, something of that nature, you'll discover what that is, and you'll see some drawings and pictures when people are showing you what to expect. Well, that's the part that swells up on me. So what I will do is I will take my residual limb with these shrinkers on there, and I will push that down into this socket before I even put a liner on. And what I'm doing is, at that point, I'm just checking to see how much my leg is swollen up, and if it's likely to be too swollen up for me to get my prosthetic leg to lock on once I put the liner on. Now, most of the time, if it has swollen quite a bit, and I push my leg down in to this socket, it will be enough pressure that it pushes the fluids out of my leg back up into my system, gets them pumping through your cardiovascular system and stuff, and gets that swelling under control. So during that time, it only takes a couple of minutes. So during that time, I get my prosthetic liner ready. What I want to do is just as soon as I get these off my leg, I want to have the liner going on just in a matter of seconds. I don't want to take these things off and wait a few minutes, because then my leg will start swelling again. So I get my prosthetic liner ready to go, which is this rubberized kind of a deal that goes right up against my skin and holds my prosthetic leg on. All right, I get that ready. I will go ahead and pull all 3 layers of this shrinker off, put my prosthetic liner on, splickety-split, roll it up. I usually put one of these things on immediately because they help cut down some of the friction between this and the liner and help them last a lot longer. That would be the liners. So I put one of these very narrow socks on there, and then as I've said in other videos, I often will put my prosthetic leg on sitting at the stairs. It's an excellent position for me to be able to accomplish this. And most of the time, if my leg has swollen up because of the heat and humidity, then this will oftentimes be really tight into my socket by the time I get to this point, and sometimes it will not click in. This is a pin system on here, and what I'll do is I'll sit on the steps, I'll have my foot a couple of steps down, and I'll just lean over, put a little bit of weight on it, and maybe just push this down with my knee down with my hand a little bit into the socket. Don't want to do it real hard or bang on anything real hard because I don't want to hurt my knee, of course. Or sometimes I'll bang my foot down, which I don't want to do that too hard because I don't want to mess up this ratcheting system on my leg. But more often than not, I can, within less than a minute of the time, even if my leg is still swollen once I get to this point, I can get this thing to click in. Now once I've got this leg clicked in on a pin system, it's not going to go anywhere, and my leg will have no place to expand anymore, so the swelling will not get any worse. And of course, over some time, after I've moved around, been walking around, standing around, which of course I can't do without both my legs, but then the swelling will go down even more and more as time goes on and my leg sinks deeper and deeper down into this socket. So hopefully that was a little bit of information that was useful for you and something that make these hot and humid days a little bit easier to manage when it comes to putting yourself together, putting your prosthetic legs on.